Hello and welcome back to More Than a Lumpy Jumper. Today, it's back to little old me again, the Bobster. Flying solo during our in-between seasons bit, where we're turning the spotlight, or the microphone at least, onto some of our incredible listeners. In guests with gifts. So, without further ado, let's welcome our next two victims. I mean listeners, Nicole and Sarah. Get ready, because I don't know what we're going to get from these two. So, hello, both of you rascals. How are we?
Good, thank you.
Hello.
Excellent. So, here we go with introductions. I'm only going to have introduced you as Sarah and Nicole, or Nicole and Sarah. I would like you to introduce yourselves in terms of who you are and not necessarily what you do. So, Nicole, let's start with you.
So I am Nicole. I am a mom. I am a daughter, wife, sister, auntie, planner, solutioneer, and everything else that my family decide I'm going to be.
On a daily basis?
Yes, hourly.
Hourly. Love it. Well, welcome, Nicole. And Sarah, how about you? Who are you?
I am also a wife and a mother to twin girls, and I'm a daughter. I'm also an auntie. I should have gone first because then she wouldn't have nicked my bit. Little Miss Organised, I think. Also a planner. Yeah, all of that and the above. Whatever needs to be, whatever I need to be.
Wonderful. Nicole, do you think that we actually ought to add for Sarah that she's an only child?
100%. I'm surprised that wasn't number one.
There was, yes, absolutely. And the fact that she's also crossed that you went first because she thinks that all of those things belong to her. But, you know, let's not start picking on her just too early on within the session, I don't think. So, Sarah, we're going to let you go first this time. So, yeah, you be careful what you wish for. I'm going to ask some questions. I don't want it to preclude conversation in any way, shape or form. So they're sort of like starters for 10. I'm trying with all of my recordings that we do get to ask all of the questions, but we'll see where it takes us. You know, wax lyrical if you feel the need to about your answers as we go. And if Nicole, Sarah, you want to respond to each other, that's absolutely fine too. Okay, so that's the rules of the game.
Okay.
So, Sarah, talk to me about what made you first start listening to More Than a Lumpy Jumper and what keeps you here.
Is that other than because you asked us to? No.
Okay, that's two out of the 3 recordings I've done now where people have accused me of forcing them to listen to it. That's why I ask, what keeps you here, or is this me?
No, well, that's an entirely different question. No, I started because you said you were doing it, and I wanted to listen to it. But I was I think in the first instance, it was a case of, I must listen to that. I must listen to that. And eventually I did. But I think, as you know, I had some time off work at the beginning of the year and I did a lot of walking and had a lot of sort of time to think about what was going on. And I started listening to them and just, it felt like you and Bridge were writing them for me at one point. That'll be the only child bit again, I guess. And that's why I'm still here. And now I'm doing a lot more driving and stuff. So, and I spend a lot more time on trains and things. So that's kind of, I'm making sure that I have that time to actually listen and keep listening. So yeah, it's given me a lot of reflection, I would say, and a lot of ways to sort of think about myself and think about things that have happened and how I'd like things to go moving forwards. So that's me.
Fabulous. Thanks, Sarah. And Nicole, how about you? Same question. Why did you start listening? You're probably going to give the same answer. And what keeps you here?
So I started listening because of what Sarah said, but also because actually, you know, you've been a really big support for me personally and career-wise. So it was my time to be able to support you. So that's why I started listening. And why I'm staying is because the content's really relevant. You know, every class that I've listened to is like, it's just relatable. And I knew full well, obviously didn't know Bridge, but knowing you, Bobby, as well as I do, I knew it would also be hilarious. So you know.
I'm laughing out loud at motorways, I have to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, I'm glad.
It is. So yeah, so I started joining to, I started listening to support you, but stayed listening because it was really relevant content that was fun to listen to.
Oh, good. I'm glad. And as I said to my other friends, I know that there was some level of please, 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 and levels of forcing to actually do it. But you two, with us having worked together for quite a while, that you are fabulous critiques to me as well, that if I wasn't getting it right, you'd be the first to give me the feedback. So it's really delightful when I hear back from you when you go, oh my God, you've just written another episode, which is entirely about me, because you both do it. She didn't say it, Sarah, but Nicole sent me the same message that you have. This was written just for me.
Yeah, totally. And if this was not good to listen to, we'd both in our own styles say, oh my God, this is really embarrassing, Bobby, please put down the mic.
Drop the mic and not in the way that we'd normally do it.
That
Brilliant.
big fancy mic that you've now got.
I know. I have got a very fancy mic because I am a podcast host. Sounds ridiculous even when I say it. Oh dear. Right. So moving on then. So you are avid listeners. I'm pretty sure that there aren't many, if any at all, that you've actually missed. So now it's a bit like trying to choose your favourite child. Which is your favourite episode and why? I can let you battle it out as to who's going to go first this time.
Well, I think one of the things that I've learned about myself is retaining information from just listening. I'm not the greatest at that. So when I saw that, when I thought, oh God, I need to think about this, I was a bit like, oh. But I remember walking around and thinking, oh my God, that's brilliant. I'm going to use that in training. Or, oh, I'm going to remember that. And that's how I need to channel things. And then it sort of disappears. But I think thinking back, for me, there were a couple that, and one recently actually that made me think a lot as well. But like the one about toxic environment and psychological safety, I think that was quite a good one for me, and a bit of realization of various bits and pieces as well. But also, how much I have a bit of imposter syndrome and that whole being a fraud and doing it anyway, and that kind of thing. So I think for me they were ones that really stuck. But the one with Alison Riley listened to the other week, and I think from a personal perspective, I've got two 12-year-old girls, and just listening to her about how they think now and how they see life through their eyes and things, that was really kind of, I sort of thought about that, but not really thought about it. And that was really good for me as well. I can even remember where I was when I was listening to that one. But yeah, so they were my first sort of thoughts in terms of which ones that kind of really got there. And and there were reasons why they were key to me. But Nicole?
Yeah, so it's really difficult because there's been a wide range of topics, and depending on how my day's going or my week is going, they all hit different at different times. I think the two that sort of, I know you said one, but if I can say one from two, like one across different series, would that be all right?
Well, Sarah said three, so all bets are off. You can say all of them if you want to.
Yeah, she never listens, does she?
Rule breaker. Rule breaker.
Yes. Who'd have thought? I think the two that sort of stood out. One was one, I think it might have even been the second one that you did, Bobby, which was around the meetings. That one definitely. No, sorry, the meetings one is the one that you did just recently.
Recently,
recently. It's the one where you use that fancy word that I couldn't even Google to find out what it meant because I didn't know how to spell it, let alone say it.
Do you know when you asked me about that the other day, and I thought, I think she's hallucinating because I can't even remember what it was.
She's not, because I remember thinking that was a real Bobby word, and then I couldn't remember what it was either. But in days gone by, Nicole, she'd say things and we would go straight to Google to work out what they meant. So
definitely.
I didn't even do it this time.
I couldn't.
I also remember how childish we were when we had to go and Google as to whether
exactly what you say.
knobhead was spelt with a K or not.
K or an N.
I think we agreed it's a K though, right?
Yeah, we did.
I think we did, yes. Listeners, we did actually do some very significant work in our time together as well. But there were moments like that where we were spending our time Googling, just to make sure that people don't think that we were just being ridiculous all of the time.
No, definitely.
Just most of it.
Yeah, it was. We had to do. It was a very difficult time, wasn't it? Particularly during COVID.
We had to keep light of a situation.
We sure did.
We did. So we all learnt new vocabulary, and in fact, Sarah's your lovely daughters also learnt some new words too. I still apologise for that.
Oh my God. And the fact that we all had to start wearing headphones because of the language that was being thrown about during meetings. Oh my goodness. Anyway,
my mum learned stuff.
She did.
Yes. So yeah, the meetings one, I think it's because it's just still so relatable. Even now I find myself, still back to back in meetings, and I don't think we've truly navigated this new virtual world of working, and I don't think we've got it right yet. So the meetings one definitely for me, in particular when Bridge was talking about her boss or a previous boss that she'd had having coffee, and straight away I did go back to when the three of us used to work together, and you'll probably remember that there was like a running joke around Nicole's in her office, which was the car park, because I'd just be on my phone walking round and round and round. But I can't quite do that on Teams with a laptop, but back in the day when we actually used mobile phones to have conversations, that really resonated with me. So definitely that one. And then the other one was the one that was an early recording podcast that you did, which was being comfortable with curiosity.
Yeah.
Which is all around sort of, speaking up, asking the questions, questioning why are we doing this, don't settle for, because that's what we've always done. So yeah, them two.
Yes.
You've always done that though, Nicole.
I know.
You've always asked. Always asked questions.
I was going to say the same, but mind you, you're not one for holding back with a question yourself, Abercrombie.
No. I mean, but she's not. I don't mean that in a negative way. She's always challenged, and yeah.
No, I mean with both of you, I think that's what I was meaning when my greatest supporters and critiques, because you would ask questions the whole time. But I like to think, with the topics that both Bridge and I bring up on the podcast, we're being real, and I would always ask you to ask questions. I know there would be days when I'm like, just stop asking any more questions. I didn't mean it. Not today.
The worst part was when you went on holiday and continued from your sunbed, I think. And we'd think, she's gone away for a week, we can crack on. And then all this barrage of ideas would come flooding through.
That's most of the time where you told me to shut up and go away. Yeah. I think was the main element. And I'd like to tell you that things have changed, but they have not. And of course, I have even more holidays now that I'm working for myself. So, but the only person who I have to tell me to shut up now is myself, because I will come back and there'll be a splurge going, this is ridiculous. Who came up with all of this? Oh, that was me then. So, yes, I have to sort of like try and box some of that off. It's not good. So we've said a little bit about this. Sorry, I know the other thing I was going to say, Sarah, Alison Riley, absolutely love her.
Oh, yeah.
And one of my favourite things from that was the bingo calling, and and no longer being allowed to say two fat ladies, but to say two cold snowmen instead.
Yeah,
I love that. It's the little things.
It just really resonated, because I think my two have gone to high school now, and they've never noticed the differences between people or anything. They just see things in a completely different way. And it was really interesting. I just thought, I get that. So I thought it was good.
So there's definitely been a learning piece from that bit then, Sarah. I mean, one of the other questions I was going to ask you both about, do you go and dig into any of the links that we put on at the end? And also, is there anything else that you want to say about what you're learning from it that you're either putting into practice or reflecting on?
Do I look at the links? I often think I'm really going to look at that. And then it was only when I was flicking through things yesterday, I was like, oh, that's where the links are. But I am reading Radical Candor.
Are you?
Yes. So I have started that. That'll be my sunbed reading for next week, because I'm not getting through it very well because I keep reading it when I go to bed, and it's not really a bedtime topic.
No.
So for next week when I'm away, I'll get onto that. But yeah, I think I've just become, going back to that curious thing, I've just started reading so much more and doing, Nicole's always been all over like reading things on LinkedIn and what's coming up and stuff. And I think I've just got back into that, and it's sort of helping me.
Yeah.
It sparks things that I think, I'll go off and look at that. And when I had the time off work, I had time to do it as well. So I'd kind of go and I'd send myself off down a rabbit hole looking at various bits and pieces. So I think it's just kind of sparked that curiosity again, and that I've always had that love of learning, but it's kind of gone a bit dead, I think. And I've kind of reignited that, and I keep looking at things and reading different things. I've got about 3 or 4 books on the go. I'm also reading oh god, I can't think what it's called now. That's awful. Say it's something like Unbearable Hospitality, but it's not. I don't think that's the title, but it's a similar sort of vein where just reading.
Sounds like a good.
I can't retain anything.
It sounds like a good title for the book that you're going to write.
Yeah, I can't retain anything. I think it might be my age. I can't retain anything these days. But things like that, and it just makes me think. But that's my problem. I listen to the podcast, and then you'll say something, and I'm like, oh yeah, and it'll go that, and then all of a sudden another 10 minutes has gone, and I don't know what you've said because I go off down a little rabbit hole.
I'd say to yourself, coaching moment during the recording is just go easy on yourself. I mean, it's a bit like I say that. I think it's brilliant that you've gone back into learning again, and you're doing all of that, and sometimes something will hit and strike and you'll use it straight away. Other times it won't, but it might come back 6 months later, 6 weeks later, whatever it might be. And whilst you think that you haven't remembered it, it'll be there somewhere. So it's a bit like all of my ridiculous ideas. I put them all to one side and I keep them as organised as possible, knowing that I can't do them all at once. I might eventually get to them someday, or I might not. And so just go easy on yourself. It'll all be fine. But you're doing more than, as you said, than you were potentially last year.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely am.
This is like
Nicole,
coaching.
how about you?
This is like coaching in real time, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good.
I aim to please. Nicole, how about you? You and your learning. How about you?
Yeah, do you know, me and Sarah are like yin and yang, aren't we? I'm doing something, she starts, I stop. And I need to get back into it, but I have been quite bad in terms of reading stuff, letting stuff drop. I don't know why. In terms of the links, I've copied lots of links and I've got them on my own little notepad on my phone so that I can refer back to them. But I'm more of a listener than a reader. I tend to take stuff in, whereas Sarah prefers to read so that she can absorb it, and clearly can't remember.
Yeah.
I prefer to listen rather than read.
Yeah. And I'd hope with what we are attempting to do with the links and what have you is there's some viewing, some listening, some reading, so that everybody gets a bit depending on how they actually like to learn.
Yeah,
how they learn.
Yeah. So that was the plan that hopefully is getting there somewhere along the lines.
I think
Excellent.
so. I think you do need a bit of a mix, don't you? Because I think both you and Bridge are quite good at referring to what you've read to get, whether it's your data or, just using the meetings one because it was in the top of my head. But actually, having the links for me to go back into it and not have to, not that I don't like to re-listen to everything, but to just go straight to, that's what they were talking about. I can pick up. I don't need to go back through the whole recording to find it. I can just go straight to the link.
Yeah. And I understand that you get sick of the sound of my voice. You always have done. So there's nothing.
How dare you? No, I've never said that. You know that the reason I phoned you that day was because I heard your voice and it made me cry because I hadn't heard of it before.
I know.
So I was like, you found that emotional bone in my body.
I did eventually. only took me God knows how many years. I really wanted to give you a metaphorical hug that day, even though I know you don't like being hugged. So yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad it sparked you calling me. I really do. And I mean that. I mean that. Beautiful. Okay, so what haven't we tackled that you want us to give a go to? Nicole?
It's unreasonable hospitality. Sorry, I just had to. It was driving me nuts. But anyway,
get a word in edgeways with her.
I was going to say, there she is again, like the interrupting sheep.
Has she put herself on mute now?
I'm not sure.
If we were on Teams now, I'd have muted her already.
or thrown her out of the meeting. I mean, honestly, I'm trying to remember how long it is since the three of us worked together. This doesn't seem very different from anything that we've ever done. It's just that we're now going to put this out across the airwaves. It's a bit freaky.
Oh,
yeah. I need to not be petulant and let Sarah speak. It's fine.
I did offer for you to go first with what topics have we not tackled yet that you'd love to hear us talk about?
Do you know what? You are really good at coming up with topics that I didn't even know I needed to hear, which is like my first comment. It's like you both come up with these ideas. I guess for me, probably two that spring to mind: networking when you don't really like networking, and the other one is, where do you take your career when you have no flaming clue how you ended up where you are?
That sounds just like being lost.
It's not. It's not about being lost. I think it's just, I think it's just, well, Bobby, well, you both, well, Sarah's kind of found her calling, but obviously I was on a certain trajectory and thought, right, okay, know what I want to do, know the next one. Then obviously, Bobby, you came along and changed that path.
I think you said ruined it at the time.
You ruined my life. But I think it's just around, when you are so certain that you think you're going in a certain direction, and then actually other options are opened up to you that you then explore. It's then what next? Because then you haven't really figured out what the next is. Kind of feel like this might be group therapy, but do you know? I don't know if I'm explaining myself very well.
You are, and I think that there's something. In fact, I did a recording recently for the Gen Dit network, who is a network for military veterans, and they did a whole month of coaching videos. That Bridge did one, I did one, and there was a whole range of brilliant coaches. I just called us brilliant coaches then. Sorry. A whole range of coaches, just including myself in that there. But you had to record, and I did one on career mapping, which I will share with you, Nicole, because and I might share the video actually, because that was about almost mapping the things that you have done in the past and how you'd rate yourself from a challenge perspective, a reward perspective, and a happiness perspective. And what that then came up was that there were certain roles where I had constellations that, all of those came together. So those were great jobs. And then you reflect on why. And then there were other ones where there was quite distinct differences between like happiness and reward or the challenge, which would create a black hole. So those are the things to steer away from. But it helps you start to focus on what was it about those jobs that you loved the most. And that then helps you in deciding what you might want to do next.
Yeah.
So I'll share the recording so you can have a look and then we can chat further about that. But I mean, it also is like that might be something that we could actually turn into a podcast.
Yeah, because, as I say, I was always very kind of clear where I wanted to go, and, very fortunate that I've been able to, explore other avenues that's shifted my mindset on where I want to get to. I just don't know where that is.
What next? Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm still fathoming it. I might have got a bit closer now that I'm working as an independent, but it's taken nearly 55 years. So you've got plenty of time, my love. So all is well.
Yeah. Yeah.
But those are good topics. Those are good topics. Bridge will like those. Anyway, your turn, Sarah. What topics for you have we not tackled yet?
I don't know, because I've been thinking about this, and I'll always say I'm not really an ideasy person. I just follow things through, and then you tell me that I am, and I need to be quiet. But I think have you done anything? I may have missed it, let's say, but have you done anything on like the sort of prioritizing and things? Because you will always talk about how if something isn't there, then you've just not prioritized it right, and how you're not prioritizing the right things. But I'm in a situation now where I'm looking after 5 areas, all of which are very important to their, each one is important to them, and it's like trying to prioritize that. What is the important thing? What is the thing you tackle first, when actually all of it is a priority to different people?
Yeah.
And I don't know, have you gone down that route? Because
No, we haven't,
you would always talk about.
Yeah, it's interesting that we haven't. It's a good one.
I like that.
Because
yeah, I do.
That's something that is quite a challenge when I'm now in a new world, and trying to sort of work that out and learn at the same time as I go is quite challenging.
Yeah, and then and that whole element about not spreading yourself too thinly, so that then everybody ends up not getting really what they were actually after in the first place.
Yeah,
so, that's a good one. That's a juicy one. Excellent.
Oh well, that's your one then.
Well, yeah. I mean, in fact, all of them I'm a bit like, oh God. I mean, whilst I've got a little bit of an idea with one of the ones that Nicole said, networking will be a nice one to do as well. So yeah, I feel like between my 6 guests, I've ended up with a whole season's worth of content, which is amazing. It's very good. Yes.
I just think you've tackled so many topics, and as Nicole said, things that I didn't even know that I needed to know. But I think there's just lots of different. I was looking at the different titles, and I was like, oh yeah, what's that about, and what was that about, and stuff, and just trying to think of other things. I think and also you quite often go off on little tangents and things, and start tackling other things at the same time, don't you?
Yeah, I think that one of the things, and Bridget and I have both talked about this, that there's potentially, in particular with some of them, where we need to go back over and go, oh, actually, we were heading down a path there that we should have then done a topic on. So I think we need to do a bit of homework at some point about going back and going, oh, look, we skimmed on this. One of my other guests recently was saying that whilst we talk an awful lot about resilience, quite a lot through a number of the topics, we've never tackled it just by itself. So it's whether it's a standalone one of its own. So yeah, I mean, there's those sort of things where I think, oh yeah, we perhaps ought to go back, because some of the topics, we've run out of time on it when we could have said an awful lot more. So yeah, that's good.
Resilience for me is something that is a word I use a lot.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Actually, there's been quite a few podcasts that I've listened to that I'm like, oh, okay, this is going down a different avenue. And then obviously you've kind of regrouped and brought it back round. But I'm like, oh, you're leaving it there.
So that's good reflection for us too. Okay, ladies, you're not going to believe this, but, we've come to an end. It goes so quickly. Time flies when one is having fun. I'm not speaking for the two of you. That was just me. But I hope you have enjoyed this. So the last question is where you have to shout out, who are the 3 people in your network that you think would enjoy this, that we're going to share with on social media when we complete and send the recordings out? Nicole?
So I think that my sister, Natalie, she is not just a job title, but she is in HR, and I think she would very much welcome listening to lots of the topics that have been discussed. To non-HR people who I work with, I mean, to be honest, Bobby, I would share this with everybody, not this particular session, obviously, but the whole thing, and I have done on LinkedIn. But 2 people in particular that come to mind is Chantal and Christy, who I currently work with, who I think will enjoy a lot of the content, if not all of the content.
Fab. How about you, Sarah?
My bestie, so Kate, I think both on a personal and professional level, I think she would absolutely love the content and would absorb a lot of it. And, as Nicole said, some, if not all of it, in what she's doing. And then I actually think there's my current team that I'm in. There's several of them that I would suggest, but I think potentially Hannah Elliott is one who I'd worked with previously, and I think it's sort of right up her street. And oh God, any of them really, actually, in our team. But yeah, Hannah's one, and Diane, I would probably say Diane Packer. I think they are two people that would particularly be on the same wavelength as well.
Yeah.
In what they're doing. But yeah, loads of people. And I've actually, another friend of mine, Lynn Parsons, I think she would benefit as well from just listening to some of the content and absorbing what people say and how you approach things and do things differently and stuff. I think there's loads of people that benefit from it, quite frankly.
It's like an Oscars list.
I know.
I was going to say, well, there's the rule breaker again. We said 3, she did 4. I hope everybody noticed.
Sorry.
It's why we're out of time, because Sarah's not shut up.
I can't read and I can't
Can't follow instructions. Oh my God.
Brain's fried today.
Well, with the chuckles that we've actually had, the reason for asking about who to go to next is that, you know, with me being the mischief ripple maker, I want those ripples to keep going. Even with doing this and 18 new people or whatever it might be that are listening to this, it's a little and often, but just sharing the laughs and the learning or whatever it might be. Ladies, this has been an absolute joy being back together as our little threesome again, not in a rude way, I hasten to add. I loved working with the two of you. That was the reason that I wanted you to come and do this at the same time and share this with me. I hope you've had a wonderful time, because I have thoroughly enjoyed speaking to you both.
Thank you.
Right.
Yes.
My pleasure. Well, thank you, and we will speak again soon. Thank you very much, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening to this little guest gift mini. Next week, it's Bridget's turn to fly solo again with her guests. She'll be joined by more wonderful listeners to share their favourite episodes, discuss what they're learning, and tell us what they want more of. Until then, have a fantastic week. Why not take a stroll through our archive and rediscover some more past episodes? Or don't. There's always that choice. And don't forget, if you do love what you are hearing, please vote for us in the British Podcast Awards. Till next week, bye.